Good afternoon. You're tuned in to Bucknell Athletics live on YouTube. This afternoon's contest features the Bucknell Bison as they take on the Boston Terriers. Great to have you with us this afternoon. I'm Nicholas Severini. We're live from the Kinnean Auditorium in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania for this dual meet between the Bison and the Terriers. We are right and underway for event number one of this contest, and it is a star-studded, the women's 200-yard medley relay, as all 8 lanes, or 7 lanes I should say, 7 of 8 occupied for this opening contest. As a eerie silence now fills the auditorium, we are set for this opening one, a special eye on lane 4 and 5, Boston's 18 and Bucknell's 18 respectfully in those 2 lanes as the first horn goes, and we are underway. In lane 4 for Boston is Abby Hahn. Lane 5 for Bucknell is Sophia Burns to start. Bucknell going through lanes 1, 3, 5, and 7 for this opening one. Boston lanes 2, 4, and 6, and as advertised, it's lanes 4 and 5. Neck and neck, Sophia Burns will touch the wall for the opening lap. First, a time of a 27:37 for first place after the first 50 yards of 200. Now into the breaststroke for the second round of this medley. For Bucknell in lane 5, it's Sydney G. For Boston, Julia O'Rourke. As they go now towards the opposite side and now really separating all of a sudden is Bucknell. They're occupying 1, 2, and 3 as they come through the halfway mark. A staggering run in lane 3 by Bucknell's Hannah Bingley as it's now a Bucknell 1-2 after the halfway mark here. 100 yards of 200 so far for this medley relay. At the same time across the pool, the 3-meter dive also taking place. But back here for the 200 medley relay currently occupying, it is Bucknell emphatically now all of a sudden in first place, and the Bucknell fans are starting to notice it, cheering on the Bison as they're going to be 1 and 2 and maybe even 3 as they come to the final leg of this one. An excellent sprint by Sam Benzanja, and now to round it off, it is Kyla Kelly in lane 5 trying to take the opening win of this event for the Bison, and look at how alone and far out Kyla Kelly is for the Bison. Kelly sprinting on the freestyle. It's going to be an opening win in this event for Bucknell. It's going to be a Bucknell 1-2. It just might be a Bucknell 1-2-3, and it is. The C team for the Bison, headlined and anchored by Ashley Piacentino, taking that 3rd place spot just ahead of Boston's A-team Stella Langenbach with an excellent run on the final sprint, pulling up a 24.25, but it wasn't enough as the Bison go 1, 2, and 3 for their opening event of this duel. Well, it was always the Bison with the advantage. Sydney G and Sam Benzija both with an emphatic sprint in the 2nd and 3rd legs of that medley relay. And the Bison were very much in front by a wide margin. They took that one against their B team by about 2.5 seconds and 3.5 seconds from Boston's A team. A staggering start for the Bison women's swim team. This, of course, the opening dual meet of the season for Bucknell. They had one intra-squad scrimmage coming into this one. Boston actually already had a dual meet this year. They are 1-0 both for the women's and for the men's after defeating Holy Cross, sweeping the Crusaders to start. As we now get into the men's 200-yard medley relay event number 2 in the swimming pool. Bucknell in lane 5, their A-team, Boston's A-team occupies lane 4. The take your mark set, and we are back underway here now for the men's 200-yard medley relay. Starting off for Bucknell's A-team in lane 5 is Avery Kuhn, and for Boston, it's Johnny Farber. Very even, really, all 8 lanes as they touch the opposite wall for the first time. 25 yards of 200, and Boston very much competitive. And look at Boston all the way up in lane number 8. Galen Carter touching the wall. It looked to have been first for Boston. An excellent sprint on that far side in the furthest lane, where you are seeing on your screens lane 1 all the way on the nearest side, and it goes all the way up to lane 8 on the far side. But now the middle lanes starting to separate themselves maybe from the pack. It's a Boston 1-2 at the moment in lane 5 for Boston. Rather, that looks to be lane number 6. That is Justin Lau making an excellent swim on that second leg in the breaststroke as they now go into the butterfly stroke for the 3rd leg of 4, and it is Boston with an emphatic advantage early. It's for Boston, it's rather for Boston, I should say. Apologies for that. In lane number 4, Jed Tam looking to work forward, and it'll be Tam touching the wall first as they get into this final leg of the sprint. And for Boston, in lane number 4, it is Medley versus Bucknell. In lane 5, that's Justin DeSanto, and it's going to be those two sprinting on the freestyle all the way to the finish, and this could be a photo op. The crowd roaring in approval of this. They're just neck and neck here. Lane 4 and 5, who's going to take it? It's Bucknell! It's Bucknell by 4/100ths of a second in lane 5, stealing the win. Justin DeSanto, what a comeback for the Bison as Bucknell swipes first place. 4/100ths of a second. An incredible final swim from Justin DeSanto. He beat out Min Lee by about half a second on that final swim, and it made the difference as Bucknell takes the first two. And now, after that excellent start in this competition, they now go into the long distance swims. Event number 3 and 4 in the swimming pool will feature the 1,000-yard freestyle. And after that excellent start to this dual meet, with Bucknell taking the first two competitions, they now take a bit of a deep breath, including all the fans here that are currently occupying the Kinnian Auditorium. An excellent crowd on hand here for this one. Not a seat available in the two sets of seats that occupy the finish line to our left here in the commentary booth. As we get set now for the first long event of this one. This is the longest event, the 1,000-yard freestyle, no mile-long event here this afternoon. They will swim a 500-yard freestyle towards the end of this competition. And now we are set here for the 1,000-yard freestyle for the women's. It is Bucknell occupying lane 3 and 5. That's Kelly Byron and Clara Renner. And for Boston in lanes 4 and 6, Katie Pestricelli and Eliza Monaldo. All 4 underclassmen as the horn sounds for this 1,000-yard freestyle event. 3 freshmen in the swimming pool for the 1,000-yarder. 1 sophomore, that is Bucknell's, is Kelly Byron, who occupies lane number 3 as the first paddle boards are out. And a good chance now to highlight what is currently going on the opposite side of the pool, the 3-meter dive taking place first at the moment. They get some of their practice dives in. They haven't properly started yet. They're in their first couple of rounds as the 3-meter and 1-meter divers currently begin to take place. And we see on that far side of your screens a lot of the practice swims for both sets of teams. These are 2 teams that were very close, especially in the women's competition for Bucknell in the Patriot League last season, with Boston taking 3rd place in the Patriot Leagues and 4th place belonged to Bucknell. Boston, of course, taking 3rd in the Patriot Leagues last season. As we're back in the swimming pool here, as the dives are taking place once again, this is the 3-meter, the 1-meter and 3-meter diving competitions will be currently occupying the far side of the pool. As back here in the swimming pool, they come to about the 90-second mark of what we estimate to be about 10 minutes here, and it looks to be in lane number 5 in first place, Clara Renner. There's still sub 32 seconds for 3 of the 4 swimmers in that 1,000-yard freestyle. As Clara Renner currently is in first place and Bucknell in 2nd place as well. That is Kelly Byron in lane number 3, but about a body's length in front for the Bison. In event number 3 is Kelly Byron, the sophomore, the only swimmer in the pool with swimming experience at the collegiate level coming into this contest. The closest for Boston, now closing in neck and neck with the 3 lane of Kelly Byron. That is Katie Pestricelli, the Boston freshman. If you're just joining us, you missed a staggering beginning to this contest, with the Bison taking the first 2 events in the 200-yard medley relay. It was Bucknell's 18 in the women's 200-yard medley relay, taking the first place position, and you'd have to say taking it by a very wide margin, with Kyla Kelly, the anchor, in that one. It was a much closer event for the men's 200-yard medley relay, but it also belonged to the Bison in the men's competition. The Bucknell A team, headlined by Justin DeSanto at the anchor, beating out Min Lee by about half a second in that final 50-yard sprint in the freestyle swim to give the Bison 2 first-place events to start this competition. still maintaining about a body's width in front in the 1,000-yard women's freestyle of 31.77, but she is starting to be caught up on a bit. It was Byron for Bucknell, Kelly Byron, putting in the fastest time of the 4 swimmers on that previous lap of 31.47. That's almost half a second quicker than her teammate Renner in lane number 5. Trailing in behind the lot of them, that is Eliza Monaldo, the Boston freshman, who is about 3/4 of a pool length behind the top 3, who look to be very competitive here in this 1,000-yard freestyle. We're still not at the halfway mark in this 1,000-yard free in the women's event. Kelly Byron certainly one to come into this one as a favorite. Ran the 1650 freestyle, the mile long at the Patriot Leagues, placed 8th in that competition. Also notably placed 8th in the 400 Medley. Individual, I should say, medley. Apologies there. The sophomore from Mount Kisco, New York, trying to pull ahead, but her teammate is currently in front of her up in lane number 5, Clara Renner. Renner, the freshman from Wellesley, Massachusetts, known as a freestyle and individual medley swimmer. The freshman highly touted coming into Bucknell and really showcasing that so far here this afternoon. About still a body's width, and she has been pulling through, you have to say, the swimmer freshman Renner. A lot of very consistent swims so far in this competition. And in between the 2 Bucknell swimmers is Pestricelli in lane number 4, still staying within striking distance as they approach now with the completion of this lap to the pool, the halfway mark in this 1,000-yard freestyle. I gotta tell you, an excellent atmosphere that we've seen so far at the Kinnean Auditorium. Both sets of teams, Bucknell on the near side from where we are in the commentary position, and Boston on the far side. Very few currently sitting down, especially in that 200-yard medley relay. They were fired up. You couldn't hear yourself think in the auditorium at one point. Just a brilliant showing from the fans here. This is the first dual meet of the season for Bucknell, and they've certainly got a good crowd for it. Now past the halfway mark, in first place is Renner in lane number 5 with a 5:10.16 at the halfway mark. In second place by just 7/100ths of a second is Byron in lane number 3, Pestricelli in lane number 4, and Monaldo just hitting the wall on the left side at the halfway mark. She occupies the 4th place position for this 1,000-yard freestyle. Now we can give confirmation after those practice dives that now the 3-meter diving event will be taking place on the far side of the pool after those practice dives. For the 3-meter diving events for the men's and women's, that will be taking place. It is a litany of divers for the women's team. For Bucknell, Renna Ho, the freshman Molly Crowley. Also, rather, that's Boston's, is Renna Ho and Molly Crowley, with Kylie Gruber and Sophia Sosa taking dives. And for Bucknell, Megan Catherwood, Annalise Enters, Regina Frias, and Natalie Penman, the divers for the Bison for the women's. And for the men's, 3 Bucknell divers, Jackson Vinnerub, the highly touted Vinnerub Jr. dives, along with Connor Thurston and Jack Krug. For Boston, it's David Johnson and Zain Mahana, a highly touted Boston diver. Watch out for Jackson Vinnerub and Zain Mahana for the 3 meters. That is certainly going to be the 2 divers to watch on that far side of the pool. Back here in the 8 swimming lanes, still in first place in lane number 5. She has started to extend her lead, hasn't she? Is Clara Renner, the freshman for Bucknell, still putting in times just at 32 seconds, in fact, was it? And her teammate Kelly Byron pulling up, I should say, with nearly identical times at the moment, with Pestricelli just falling off a bit. That was a 32.24 on that previous lap. It is a Bucknell 1-2. The women's side of things for the Bison is set to be a real competitive group this season after placing 4th in the Patriot Leagues, despite some injuries and some events to forget. The Bison last season still put up a very competitive showing in the Patriot Leagues and was neck and neck with Boston, actually, in 3rd place in the Patriot Leagues last season. Of course, the Terriers will take 3rd ultimately after that event, Bucknell in 4th, but they're trying to rectify that to start the season here. 7 minutes and 40 seconds and counting for this woman 1,000-yard freestyle, and continuing to just swim a little bit ahead, taking a 10th here, a 10th there, is the freshman swinger Clara Renner. Boston trying to stay competitive with Katie Pestricelli who got 100 and 500 freestyle wins against Holy Cross last time, but this a much different beast. The 1,000-yard freestyle that Pestrochelli, the freshman out of Bridgewater, New Jersey, is trying to stay competitive in. Taking a 10th off of Boston's is Pestrochelli. On that previous lap is Kelly Byron, who is in lane number 3, nearly a body's length in front of Pestrochelli for that second place position, and about a quarter of a pool length in front for the Bison is the aforementioned freshman runner. Eliza Maldonado in 4th position, trying to get back in this one, rounding out the top 4 in that competition. And coming up, of course, we have the men's 1,000-yard freestyle. That will also be taking place with 5 different swimmers in that competition. It's 6 swimmers, pardon me, in that competition. 3 for Bucknell and 3 for Boston. Well, Boston is coming off of good spirits. As we mentioned, they are 1-0 in the dual meets this season. The women's team narrowly beating Holy Cross by just 8 points, a final score of 155 to 143 in that competition. Boston really shined in the individual events in that contest. And on the men's side, though, it was much more of an emphatic victory. Boston's men's team also 1-0, defeating Holy Cross a much wider margin, 204 to 90. As both Boston teams come in 1-0 in the dual competitions. The Bison women's and men's team with their first dual meet, as mentioned. They are, you'd have to say, set to be very competitive against Boston. Saw that already in the Medley relays to start this competition. The women's team coming off of a 5-4 dual record, wins in their last 2. The Bucknell men's team 6-3, notably for that men's team, which will see some of their stars coming up in this 1,000-yard freestyle after this competition. They are set to be one of the potential contenders on the Patriot League as we hit the bell lap here for the women's 1,000-yard freestyle, and it has been, you'd have to say, a very consistent performance for the freshman swimmer Clara Renner in lane number 5. There is a late push coming from her teammate Kelly Byron in lane number 3, trying to be competitive and come back. She has swam far away from the Boston swimmer Katie Pestrochelli. As they come now to the line, it is going to be another Bucknell 1-2 with Clara Renner finishing out a 10:28.62, a sub 31-second lap to close it out. Kelly Byron in second place with Katie Pestrochelli rounding out the top 3 for Boston, and finishing out on the far side of the pool, that will be Eliza Monaldo. Monaldo, you'd have to say, had a very strong swim to close out those final 5 or 6 laps. At one point you were wondering if she was going to be lapped. She really turned on the jets late and will look to put in a sub 11-minute performance as she will touch the line last, and it will be an 11-minute .22 for Monaldo to round out that one. But now 3 events gone in the swimming lanes and 3 wins for Bucknell, with Clara Renner, the freshman, getting the individual victory, the first win of her collegiate career for Clara Renner. One to remember for her, as the Bison now 3 events up in this competition, 2 for the women and 1 for the men. They quickly put the men now on the diving board, or on the runner board I should call it, as they get set now for the men's 1,000-yard freestyle. So after Bucknell took a very dramatic victory in the 200-yard medley relay, this is the first individual event for the men's, the 1,000-yard freestyle. Boston putting out 3 swimmers for this competition in lanes 2, 4, and 6. In lane 2 for Boston, that is Graham Evans, a freshman. In lane 4, another freshman, it's Giovanni Solo. And in lane 6, it is the senior, the only senior competing in this one. It is the Boston swimmer Dolan Grisbaum. For Bucknell in the men's 1,000-yard freestyle, 3 swimmers occupying lanes 3, 5, and 7. It is William Shoemaker. The junior, another junior for the Bison, is Alex Crossing, and the freshman swimmer, the only freshman swimmer wearing Bison colors for this 1,000-yard freestyle, that is Finn Franks. Take a quick look now at the other side of the pool, the 3-meter diving competition taking place. Secondary splash there on that one. The competitors, of course, we mentioned a couple of moments ago, now taking place in that 3-meter dive. So both events taking on simultaneously, the diving competition as well as the swimming competition. In total, there are 32 events, 4 on the diving board and 28 in the swimming pool. We are on event number 4 from the pool here. Once again, the men's 1,000-yard freestyle, and emphatically in front, it has to be said, in lane number 4, that is the freshman Giovanni Solo. Giovanni Solo definitely had a opening meet of his career to remember. The freshman out of Las Vegas, Nevada, put in 2 victories, the dual-meet win against Holy Cross, taking first in the 200 butterfly and the 400 individual medley. 4:07 in that individual medley, but now in the 1,000 freestyle, the endurance competition, he finds himself about a body length and a half in front. Bucknell currently in 2nd and 3rd place, respectively, with Alex crossing in lane 5 and William Shoemaker in lane number 3. Still, of course, a very long way to go. In fact, with that touch of the wall, they reached the quarter mark. 250 yards of 1,000 in that long endurance competition. This, again, as mentioned, as we started on this broadcast, the longest event that we will see here this afternoon at the Kinney Auditorium. We do have a 500-yard freestyle that will also be taking place towards the end of this competition. The next longest after that is the 400-yard individual medley. There's also a 400-yard freestyle relay that will be taking place, but of course that a relay group event. It's going to be very fascinating. We're going to go from these endurance events, and then coming up right after, it's going to be what some say is one of the most exciting events in this competition, the 200-yard freestyle, 2 heats, I should say, for the women, and 1 heat for the men. That will be coming up after this. So once again, take a look at the circumstances taking place past the quarter mark, about the 350-yard or so mark in this 1,000-yard competition. In lane number 4 in first place, you'd have to say quite emphatically for Boston in this event is Giovanni Solo, trying to get his first endurance win of his collegiate career. Closest to him in 2nd place, it is to his left. In lane number 5, that is Alex crossing. William Shoemaker rounding out the top 3. And it should be noted, Solo still taking the individual lap advantage. He took about a 10th away from crossing in lane 5 and 4/10 away from Shoemaker in lane number 3. Of course, in these endurance events, every place, every position is necessary, and what is expected to be a very close dual meet, both for the women and for the men. It's shaping up to be a very exciting competition. We have a look at some of the live standings, with Bucknell taking the first 3 events. The score lines as it currently stands, which will be updated throughout the competition. It's Bucknell 39, Boston 13. Boston taking some of those points, finishing in 2nd and 3rd place respectively in event number 2 and event number 3. But Bucknell currently finding themselves up by 26 points into the 4th event of this competition. Some of the times still sub 30 seconds for the swimmers in lanes 3, 4, and 5. That was an excellent last lap from Solo. He took 3/10 off of crossing on that previous lap in lane number 5 and continues to extend his advantage as we're now past the halfway mark. 500 yards swam out of 1,000, and it is a showcase showing for Giovanni Solo currently in lane number 5 in first place. And you can see it on your screens. It looks like it's going to closely become a battle for second between the 2 Bucknell swimmers in crossing and Shoemaker. That was the first lap, that previous occasion where crossing was able to beat Solo. In fact, but the worse it was by 100th of a second. Solo is still about 3.5 seconds in front of crossing in first place in this competition. It's going to take crossing. He's going to have to really turn on the jets for this last half of this endurance sprint. From the sprint ball, or maybe an endurance marathon would be the more appropriate saying. And just as crossing took 100th on the previous lap, Solo taking out a 10th, he maintains a very steady spot in first place. Lane number 4, extending it out to about 2 body lengths in first place. As they cross the line on tap 28 of 40, approaching the 3/4 mark In this men's 1,000-yard freestyle, it is Giovanni Solo in first. In second place, Alex Crossing, touching the line in third position, or wall rather, I should say. In third position is William Shoemaker. A long delay, as in fourth place in Boston. In lane number 6 is Dolan Grisbaum. Seventh place all the way out for Bucknell, the freshman Finn Franks. And rounding it out in lane 2, Graham Evans, a freshman as well for Boston. It is the freshman Solo being chased by 2 experienced juniors in the form of Shoemaker and Crossing, wearing different colors, but that bright red cap that you can see on your screens befitting Boston here this afternoon, belonging to first place in Giovanni Solo, as they look for their first place position in the 4th event of this competition. As mentioned, Boston, they are wearing their red swim caps with a Boston logo in white on the left and right side of the head. Bucknell, they are in dark blue swim caps for this afternoon's fixture with the Bison logo both on the left and right part of the head. Bucknell, of course, bringing in a very large crowd for this opening meet of the competition, and these fans expecting a lot of excellent competition throughout this season. This is the first of 9 on the meets this season for Bucknell. That also includes the 2025 Patriot League competition that will take place towards the conclusion of this season. The Kenyon Auditorium, one of the best in all of college athletics, continuing to host some of these very prestigious events, and you can really tell why. This Kenyon Auditorium has actually been upgraded in the off-season. 2 new screens, one to our left side, which you can see in the top right of your screens for those tuning in on YouTube with the standings, and on the far side as well, they also have the diving standings that are taking place on the far side. A beautiful facility here at Kenyon Auditorium, continuing to showcase why with these extra upgrades that have been showcased during the summer. Meanwhile, in the swimming pool, Solo still very much in front with 5 taps now for him left to go. Giovanni Solo, the freshman from Las Vegas, Nevada, looking for his 3rd event win in just his 2nd competition of his collegiate career. In second place, in lane number 5, remains Alex Crossing with William Shoemaker rounding out the top 3. As it currently stands, it'll be Boston taking their first event win of this competition with a Bucknell 2 and 3. So there will be some damage limitation coming from this event, as the referee on the left side, bell in his right hand, will wave that aforementioned bell, the bell lap for the freshman phenom. We might be able to call him that now, Giovanni Solo, as he turns on the jets. He will be lapping the 2 competitors on the far side and near side respectfully. Second place is to his left in lane number 5, Alex Crossing. But this event, from start to finish, he has led it from start to finish. It has belonged to Giovanni Solo. It is an emphatic victory for the freshman. He turns into a phenom, and he demolishes the 1,000-yard freestyle, a 9-minute 35. And in second place for Bucknell, it is Crossing, finishing with a 9:41.51, and for Shoemaker, a 9:44.10, and the first time that we see the Boston faithful in rapturous applause. A 6-second gap for Solo as he took the victory. Now look at this, the crowd on their feet. It's because the 2 freshmen are trying to close it off on the far side and near side respectfully, and it's going to be Boston's Graham Evans who will take that 5th place position, with Finn Franks, the freshman for Bucknell, rounding it out. Well, the endurance competition split. The women taking it belonging to Bucknell is Clara Renner. And the men's 1,000-yard freestyle, the first win for Boston in this competition, goes to Giovanni Solo. And now all 8 lanes occupied for this next competition, as the men just take a deep breath after what was a long endurance competition. The women set to re-enter the swimming pool in a much quicker competition, the women's 200-yard freestyle. A quick look on the right side. We will update the standings when they are available to us. Of course, with our attention belonging to the swimming pool, the 3-meter diving competition currently taking place. The main ones to watch for the men's side of things in that 3-meter dive: Jackson Vinnerup for Bucknell versus Zain Mahana for Boston. Back in the swimming pool here. All 8 lanes occupied from the near side to the far side in heat 1 of 2. Brookworth, John Vi Chowdhury, Virginia Hastings, Stella Langenbach, Riley Giles, Sasha Ramy, Kendall Luke, and Ava Key. Heat 2 will feature for Boston Kyla Eckhart. Very little separating the swimmers through the first 25 yards of this competition. The headliners in lanes 4 and 5, as mentioned. In lane 5 for Bucknell, it's Riley Giles. For Boston, in lane 4, it's Stella Langenbach. Looks to be lane 3 in first place after the first 50 yards of this competition. That is Virginia Hastings, one of the swimmers to watch for the Bison in this competition. The sophomore 2024 Patriot League second team member she has had a stellar start to this competition. As they come now to the wall to approach the halfway mark, it is going to be a Bucknell 1-2 with Virginia Hastings in first, Riley Giles in second place for Bucknell, and in Boston splitting the two is Stella Langenbach. A sub 1 minute on the first 100 yards of 200 in this freestyle competition, and Virginia Hastings continuing to extend her advantage. She has the second fastest 200-yard freestyle in program history. That is a 1:48.06 that she clinched last season. She had 4 wins last season, Virginia Hastings. She's looking for her first individual win this competition, but her teammate might have something to say about it. Riley Giles, who had put in an excellent last 50 yards, and the two Bucknell swimmers are neck and neck for first and second place in this competition. Virginia Hastings was in first, but Riley Giles really putting it into an extra gear as they come to the closing embers of this competition. The women's 200-yard freestyle neck and neck, and taking the lead all of a sudden is Riley Giles. As they touch the line, it is Giles coming back on the final 100 yards to take first position. Virginia Hastings, who led the first 125 yards or so, will have to settle for second. Stella Langenbach rounding it out in third. So it is instead Riley Giles, who had 7 individual event wins last season, getting her first of this competition. Bucknell 1-2, Boston 3-4, Bucknell in 5th, with lane 7's is Kendall Luke rounding it out. We have seen some very close competitions so far in the swimming pool. One between a Bucknell and a Boston swimmer. That was in the men's 200-yard medley relay. The women's 200-yard freestyle also providing a bit of drama between 2 Bucknell swimmers, as it's a Bison 1-2 in the women's 200-yard freestyle with, as mentioned, Stella Langenbach taking third position. Now we get to heat number 2. Kyla Eckhart, the senior out of Boston, will be swimming by herself, trying to beat the times of Virginia Hastings and Riley Giles, who currently occupy second and first respectively. As the men now get set in the pool at 26:72 for the first 50 yards of Kyla Eckhart. Eckhart by herself in the swimming pool, the senior out of Houston, Texas, a butterfly and freestyle swimmer, the 9th swimmer out of 8 in this competition. You see the Boston bench on the far side. You can see it on your screen, cheering on the efforts of Kyla Eckhart. Alone in the swimming pool, you see some of the swimmers as well for the Boston men's team trying to cheer her on as she crosses the 150-yard marker. Scoreline that will be updated hasn't been updated since the men's 1,000-yard freestyle. Still has Bucknell up 39-13 against Boston. That is in, we believe, the men's event. Women's event, of course, to be updated soon as well. As it's a 126.95. She needs to get to 148.84 to occupy first place against Riley Giles. 30.65 on that previous lap. Just passing yard 150. Now closing into the last 50 yards of this event. It does not look like she will be able to take first place. It will, in fact, confirm to be Riley Giles in first place, with Virginia Hastings in second. This woman 200-yard freestyle, and Stella Langenbach rounding out the top three for Breaststroke. 159.03. Final time for Kyla Eckhart, as we now come to the men's 200-yard freestyle event in this competition.
39.9. The
men occupying all 8 lanes in this one, from lane 1 to lane number 8, as the eyewear is applied, and this event set to begin. Lane 1, Dante Buenadonna. They go from Bucknell to Boston, all the way up to the top of the board. Lane number 2 for Boston, Evan Hu. Lane 3 for Bucknell, Damian Zartarisky. 4 is Charlie Nenchev. Lane 5 belongs to Chris Kopak. 6 is Derek Cheng. 7 is Nick Shapis, and lane number 8 for Boston to round it out, Andrew Ignatescu. First 50 yards of the event, and the middle lane trying to separate themselves early. And lane number 5 is Chris Kopak, who was just a 10th ahead of lane number 4 for Boston, Charlie Nenchev. That is the senior for Bucknell against the freshman for Boston. As they approach now the halfway mark in this men's 200-yard freestyle, it is Bucknell 1, Boston 2. Narrowly ahead is the senior Chris Kopak in this competition. Kopak, a 3-time All-Patriot League selection, took the bronze medal in the 200 freestyle at the Patriot Leagues. That was for a program record. But how about the freshman trying to make his case against the very experienced and highly talented Chris Kopak? It's Charlie Nenchev in lane number 4, staying within a body's length. Third place is neck and neck as they come now to the wall for this competition, and extending his advantage is the senior Chris Kopak with 1 more there and back to go. It's Kopak in first place with Charlie Nenchev in second place, and occupying the near side in lane number 3, trying to catch up to the freshman, and is Damian Zartarisky. Trying to make a late push for second place, but it's Chris Kopak swimming ahead against the freshman. The crowd in rapturous applause as Kopak goes all the way to the line. An emphatic swim for Kopak, who takes first position for the Bison, and Zartarisky able to get second. Just holding on late. What an extra swim by Zartarisky at the death to beat Nenchev for that second place position. You heard the pop of the crowd in the background as Zartarisky was able to swipe it by 0.2 of a second.
Award 31.05.
So Chris Kopak, the senior in first, but the dramatics belonging to Damian Zartarisky, who was able to take second place in lane number 3. Charlie Nenchev in lane 4 will have to settle for third. As the diving board competition in the 3-meter dive taking place now for the women, we go back into the swimming pool for some of the specialty dives. Event number 7 is the women's 100-yard backstroke. The women competition, Bucknell has taken every single event so far against Boston. Boston, in the first 6 events, have just 1 victory to their name. That was in the men's 1,000-yard freestyle, with Giovanni Solo winning that one. As they now go to the women's 1,000-yard backstroke, all 8 lanes being used for this event. As the buzzer goes and the competition underway, from lane 1 to 8, Sophia Burns, Isabella Ramos, Sam Benzaja, Abby Hahn, Kyla Kelly, Ella Erickson, Talia Bigel, and Alex Pastashan. The 100-yard backstroke, a very fascinating event. It's one that you have to say can move from first to last very quickly compared to the other swimming positions. They touch the line at the halfway mark, and in first place, that is Kyla Burns, all the way down in lane number 1, who had it by 100th of a second against her teammate Kyla Kelly in lane number 5. as we come now to the final length of the pool, and this is a tantalizingly close one. It looks as though Kyla Kelly has been able to take first place from her teammate in lane 1, Sophia Burns. It's Kyla Kelly with it late. It's Bucknell 1-2 in lane 5, and in lane number 1 all the way on the near side, Kelly will hit the line first, and it's going to be a Bucknell 1, 2, and 3. Kyla Kelly in first, with Burns in second, and rounding out the top 3 for Bucknell is Talia Biegel. The Bison continuing to dominate in the women's competitions. They got another 1, 2, 3 on the women's 100-yard backstroke.
Award 46.2.
The junior Kyla Kelly with the event win. A great performance from her, who is actually behind by 100th of a second against her teammate Sophia Burns. The freshman Burns able to take second place. Another Bucknell 1, 2, 3 for the women. The men trying to follow suit. It's event number 8, page number 2 of our event sheet for this meet program. 8 lanes here for the men's 100-yard backstroke.
Jackson, 52-35
Goes in a very late start in lane number 6 for Tony Ponomarev. Tony Ponomarev in that one. He has a long way to recover. The competitors from lane 1 through 8, Chase Ferguson, Keegan Duffy, Caleb Hagedorn, Johnny Farber, Avery Kuhn, Tony Ponomarev, Caleb Kubiak, and Brad Waters. And good luck trying to find a top 3 through the first 50 yards of 100. It is tantalizingly close. The top 3 separated by less than 0.3 of a second. It looks like in first place it's Boston's Johnny Farber, but good luck trying to make it out. Farber will hit the line first. Below him in lane number 3, that was the freshman Caleb Hagedorn, and these timing sets to the wall are going to be put to good use, but an extended run here by Johnny Farber in lane number 4 for Boston, who will take first place, and it's going to be a Boston 1-2 as Ponomarev, who had that delayed start, was able to swim all the way back to take second position. A beautiful recovery swim for him. The third place position occupied by Avery Kuhn, the top 3 in that 100-yard backstroke. But how about Tony Ponomarev, who had a delayed start in the competition and swam all the way back to take second? What a swim from him. Johnny Farber in lane 4, the sophomore Boston swimmer, taking the second event of this meet, both belonging to the men. The women for Bucknell have been dominating this competition. Now we go to another specialty event in event number 9, the women's 100-yard breaststroke. Event 9, I should say, of 28. And now we get a false start. I tell you what, lane number 6 has all of a sudden become a bit of the Achilles heel in this competition. Stephanie Liu jumped in the pool a bit late there, forcing all of the swimmers to step off. It's a bit bizarre. In the previous competition, Tony Ponomarev went about 0.3 of a second late in lane number 6, and now in the women's 100-yard breaststroke, Stephanie Liu going a bit quickly there. We're about 40 minutes gone in this competition. We've had our longest event in the 1,000-yard freestyles concluded. We're into the specialty events now, the 100-yard breaststroke for the women taking place, the men 100-yard breaststroke following suit, and then we get to the 200-yard butterflies, followed by the quickest event of the competition, the 50-yard freestyle. It's all of a sudden going to come a lot quicker in this competition as it continues. An extended delay currently in the swimming pool, as we're set to get each of the swimmers back onto their marks as the referees congregated to decide what of Stephanie Liu, who had jumped early, but she will be set to continue in this competition. The 100-yard breaststroke now set to begin. They go on to their marks, and this time no problems in terms of the opening salvo. We're in the 100-yard breaststroke in lanes 1 through 8. This is heat 1 of 2. Lizzie Dakina, Julia Owerko, Hannah Bingley, Faya McCarty, Sydney G, Stephanie Liu, Jillian Camperlengo, and Anna Winter. Heat 2 will feature 2 Bucknell swimmers, and Ann Farr and Ava Stallmeyer. As we approach the halfway mark in this 100-yard breaststroke, it looks like it's going to be another Bucknell 1-2. In first place for the Bison, Sydney G. Second is Hannah Bigley in lanes 5 and 3. Splitting the difference is Lou in lane number 6 for Boston, who had that false start but is currently in third place position. And right next to her, separated by, I'd say, maybe 0.2 of a second in lane number 4, that's Fia McCarty. But as they now come to this final stretch of the pool, and in front by a sizable margin is Sydney G, the freshman from Bucknell, trying to get her first individual event win of her career, and she is going to get it by a comfortable margin. G continuing this excellent run for the Bison. It's Bingley in second, and how about that? All the way down in lane number 1, Lizzie DeKina, the senior, making it a 1-2-3 for the Bison. Well, for the women's side of things, Bucknell dominating these competitions so far. Sydney G, the freshman, in first. Hannah Bingley in second. Lizzie DeKina in third position. Boston in fourth place. That's Fia McCarty, the best for the Terriers. So the freshman Sydney G there in first, as it currently stands with a time of a 1:05.42. We do have heat number 2, though, to begin. And it'll be up to Ann Farr and Eva Stallmeyer to see if they can beat that time of a 1:05.42. They're in lane 3 and lane 5 respectively. It's Ann Farr, the senior, in the third lane. Eva Stallmeyer will occupy the 5th lane. 1:05.42 was the first place swim from Sydney G. While at the diving board, they are still taking place in the 3-meter dive. We will get the final scores of that competition if they are to become available to us. We have an update now on the scoreboard. Bucknell up 95-52 against Boston in the women's competition. We are in the women's 100-yard breaststroke. This is heat 2. And 50 yards of 100. It is a 33.37 for Stallmeyer, a 35.02 for Ann Farr, as you can see from the scoreboards in the top right. Very competitive swim, you have to say, from Eva Stallmeyer. Putting in a very consistent swim here on the breaststroke as she comes to the final length of the pool here for the 100-yard breaststroke. The men just getting set, you can see on the left side, for the 100-yard breaststroke themselves. It's touching the wall first. That will be Eva Stallmeyer, the junior, with a 1:10.13, besting Ann Farr in lane 3, who takes the second place position in the heat. It will be still a Bucknell 1-2-3 with Sydney G, Hannah Bingley, and Lizzie DeKina rounding out the top 3, all in Bison colors. What a standout performance this has been for the women, who fell to Boston in the Patriot Leagues. They were neck and neck, Boston and Bucknell, throughout the Patriot Leagues this last season. Boston took 3rd, with Bucknell taking 4th. Now they turn to the men's 100-yard breaststroke. Lane 1 unoccupied, lanes 2 through 7 are, as this competition quickly underway. From lanes 2 through 8 for Boston, starting Shinsuke Moradaira, Matt Rodabog for Bucknell. In lane 4, Justin Lau. 5 is Will Hedges. 6 is Ethan Kuhn. 7 is James Lombardi. And in 8th lane for Boston, that is Jackson Hope. In the 4th lane, Justin Lau, looking to be in first position, but an excellent late swim there all the way up in lane 7. That was James Lombardi, who is in first place after the 50-yard mark. And this one very close, as you can see, lanes 3 through 7 separated by less than a stroke at the moment. And it looks like an excellent length there in lane number 3 by Matt Rodabog. He might just be in first place as they come now to the line. An excellent jump off in lane number 4 by Justin Lau, who looks to be slightly in front of the 3 Bucknell swimmers. Justin Lau with an excellent end, and he'll touch the wall first. It's Lombardi, James Lombardi in 2nd, and Rodabog in 3rd, with Hedges in 4th. But another men's competition victory, and this time it's Justin Lau winning it in the 100-yard breaststroke. Another very close competition. You can tell that these two teams, especially for the men's, very, very tight-knit in terms of their swimming capabilities here this afternoon. Of course, this, as mentioned, the 2nd event of the season for Boston, the 1st event of the season for Bucknell. As now the women will take their marks for the 200-yard butterfly event. Lane 1 vacant and lane 8 vacant for this one. It's 3 Bucknell swimmers and 3 Boston swimmers for this 200-yard butterfly, which is also underway. Very even start. It looked like getting the best of it the way down in lane number 3 for Bucknell. That was Sydney Detman. Lane 2 through 7, starting with Boston, Milena Busman, Sydney Detman, Haley Newman, Clara Renner, Cambria Jewett, and Sky Sunderhoff. 2 freshmen in the swimming pool, that's Renner and Jewett in lanes 5 and 6, and 1 senior, that's Sky Sunderhoff, who currently swims in lane number 7. All sub 29-second times, with the exception of Busman in lane number 2. They're very evenly matched through the first 50 yards of 200. As now the first dives have concluded, they take their break in the 3-meter dives. And typically we've seen them exchange to the 1 meter directly after. We'll see if that will be the case at the diving board, but back here in the swimming lanes, as they come now close to the halfway mark in this competition, and in first place with a sub 1 minute time. An excellent swim to start by Clara Renner, the freshman Bucknell swimmer. For these freshmen for the Bison, this is their first collegiate competition of their careers, with the exception of the intra-squad scrimmage that took place about 2 weeks prior to this event. Well, with now the fans roaring in the crowd, cheering, the freshmen have been able to respond. We've seen a couple of underclassmen victories so far. Bucknell trying to get a freshman competition win with Clara Renner in lane number 5, who is just under a body's length ahead of the second place position. And it's right next to her, that's in second place, touching the wall in lane number 6, Cambria Jewett. And it's still Clara Renner quite comfortably in front, past the halfway mark in this competition for the 200-yard butterfly. Now extending her advantage to over a body's length. I tell you what, the good part of the opening year of the season, you never know who on that freshman class is really going to step up, but it's an emphatic step up there from Clara Renner, who will take the first place. Jewett in second, and in third place for Bucknell, Sydney Detman to round it out. The freshman Clara Renner with a 2:03.24, taking first place by just over 3 seconds. You want to talk about a statement for your first butterfly event of your career, that did it. A very impressive run as this women's competition between Bucknell and Boston continues to favor the Bison. The men, though, it's been a different story, very evenly met. The Bison have been taking a lot of second and third place finishes, but it's the red swim caps that have been occupying the first position on a lot of these individual events. We're seeing some excellent swims so far for this opening competition of the season. As we go now to event number 12 of 28 in the swimming pool, the men's 200-yard butterfly. Lane 1 and 8 vacant, 2 through 7 occupied for this one, 3 for Bucknell and 3 for Boston as we're quickly underway. Only 1 freshman in the swimming pool for this competition. That's Boston's Diego Rosario. He is in lane 2, 3 through 7. Features Riley Twiss, Jonathan Zhang, Andy Dorsell, Galen Carter, and Edward Park. 2 seniors is Dorsell and Park, both for Bucknell in lanes 5 through 7, with Dorsell close to that first place mark, but it's Boston taking it on the first 50 yards and Jonathan Zhang. Might be a Boston 1-2 as they come to the opposite side of the swimming pool. All the way on the near side, it's the freshman Diego Rosario. But Jonathan Zhang separating himself early, the sophomore from Palo Alto, California, looking for his first event win of the competition. His teammate in lane number 2 is closest to him. Bit of a delay there in lane number 2 in terms of the push off the wall from Diego Rosario, but he still finds himself in second place. In fact, he's able to catch up now to his teammate Jonathan Zhang. It's Boston 1-2 so far in this 200-yard butterfly event. As now they come here to the line, they expose themselves in the water. It's still a Boston 1-2, making his case known for Bucknell as Andy Dorsell, but Boston occupying the top 2 positions with 50 yards to go. It's Dorsell and Twiss, 3 and 4 for Bucknell. Dorsell closest to it, but as of now, as they come to the far side of the pool, it's Boston still occupying the top 2 positions. 4 swimmers separated by less than a body's length in this 200-yard butterfly, but it's still the red caps in first and second. But an excellent push off the wall on the far side by Andy Dorsell, trying to make his case known for second. But first place will belong to Jonathan Zhang as he takes the first position. Dorsell with an excellent comeback swim to take second. Rosario in third, Twiss in fourth. A 1:52.92, 7/10 of a second victory for the swimmer for Boston, Jonathan Zhang. And now we come here to event number 13. It is the quickest event of this competition. We have to break down the swimmers before they enter the pool. The women's 50-yard freestyle, just 1 lap in this swimming pool required from lanes 1 through 8. Sarah Ketron, Jennifer Bolden, Summer Brainin, Virginia Hastings, John Vi, Chowdhury, Ashley Piacentino, and Kyla Eckhart, the swimmers for this competition. A competition that is expected to be tantalizingly close. Some call it the most exciting 20 seconds or so in swimming. Expect Virginia Hastings to be a real competitor in this competition for Bucknell. Chowdhury has also been having a couple good swims here in the Indian native. As they come now into the swimming pool for the 50-yard freestyle. Out of the pool last in lane number 4 for Boston was Summer Brainin, who got a good jump off. But in lane number 5, that's first place for Virginia Hastings at the halfway mark. It's Hastings currently in first position. On the near side, looks to be in second. That's in lane number 3, it's Jennifer Bolden. They come close to the line here, all the way in lane 1, having a run of her own. They come to the line, and it's Virginia Hastings in first. Hastings by a 1/10 of a second against her teammate Ashley Piacentino, who takes second. And in third position, lane number 3, that was Jennifer Bolden of Bucknell. 1, 2, and 3. They continue to dominate in these women competitions. 24.38 for first place, a 24.50 in second place. That is how close these margins are in the 50-yard freestyle. And now, what of the men 50-yard freestyle? The Boston Terriers winning the last couple men's events for the freestyle competitions. As we have a delay currently in the swimming pool, it looked as though one of the touch marks had fallen off. That was in lane number 3. Jennifer Bolden, who actually managed to take second place, I believe, or rather third place, pardon me, in that competition, might have dropped the touch board in the process. That is what's currently taking place in the pool. Excellent job by our director today, Stevie Cabell, and camera operator Jason Fliegelman, who is getting all of the looks in what is currently taking place in lane number 3. The excellent staff here at the Kinnean Auditorium, led by Ian, who's just replacing the equipment now in the pool, looking to make this just a short delay as we're approaching 1 hour of meet time here in the Kinnean Auditorium between Bucknell and Boston. A real tale of 2 different stories. For the men, it's been Boston winning a lot of the individual events, but for Bucknell, the women have been dominating every competition so far. In fact, if memory serves, I believe they have won every single women's event so far this afternoon. I can't give confirmation, by the way, that that is in fact the case. As the crew here at the Kinnean Auditorium just getting the last adjustments made, the equipment replaced in lane number 3. As we are now set to restart this one, the men's 50-yard freestyle. We'll discuss the swimmers. Lane 1 is unoccupied. 2 through 8, David Cohen, Justin DeSanto, Min Lee, Finn Russell, Jed Tan, William Harpster, and in lane 8, Pierre Bresson. 4 Boston swimmers, 3 Bucknell swimmers. The headline in lane 5 is Finn Russell. Justin DeSanto in lane 3, certainly not one to ignore as well. In fact, it looked as though Russell had the best jump off in lane number 3. As they come now to the halfway mark, good luck trying to find out who is in first after that one. As they switch out to the other side of the pool, it looks like it was DeSanto getting a good jump, but in lane number 4 as well as Min Lee. Lee just might be slightly ahead of Russell as they come now to the line, and it's DeSanto who gets it by 7/100ths of a second. Justin DeSanto in first, ahead of Min Lee, with Finn Russell rounding out the top 3. That was so close. The top 3 separated by just over 1/10 of a second. It was David Cohen for Boston in 4th place, the sophomore, who was just 0.2 off of the top 3. A stellar competition there, as the next event will be the 100-yard freestyle for the women, but not before we reach our first intermission here at the Kinnean Auditorium. More events will be coming up next. You're tuned in live on YouTube to Bucknell Swimming and Diving.
1977, Doug Burns. From the class of 1977, Tom Keller. From the class of 1975, John Lyons. From the class of 1977, Don Moore. From the class of 1975, Pat champion of the 200 individual medley and Hall of Fame, Roger Schwanhouse. From the class of 1976, Mark City. From the class of 1975, Tim Spoon. From the class of 1977, James Stewart. And from the class of 1975, George Evans. Ladies and gentlemen, the 1974 Middle Atlantic Conference Champions. Congratulations, ladies and gentlemen, and enjoy your reunion here this weekend.
Reggie, 104 feet. Award 43.13. Beginning round 2, Tommy 155. Award 50.7. David, 105 feet. Award 39.6. Zane, 303
Not bragging, right? Not getting any better, by the way.
25 free tomorrow.
All right. Now we can't get the pool. It does help that I already get like about 6K if
Award 39.3.
I did that on purpose.
Jackson, 51
I knew help I could get.
You would have done breaststroke, I would have.
I don't know if I can do it 25 years old. My knee is like jacket? Yeah. I know, I noticed that. That's a commitment to a look. Yeah. You don't notice it because you leave, and you get out, you're like, oh, yeah, that feels nice. What's the score on the men's side? See the women, that's the women? Yeah, you got only paper on it. Okay. Now, I'm assuming the men are winning, but probably not by as much on the women's side. Yeah, the women are doing real well. I mean, the men are doing well, but it's closer for sure. Yeah, they've always been pretty solid. Yeah, they're doing well.
And welcome back into the Kinney Auditorium in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, as it's Bucknell, it's Boston, live on YouTube. You're tuned into Bucknell Swimming and Diving. We're in event number 17 of 32 in its entirety as the 1 meter dives continue to take place on the right side. We turn now back to the swimming pool. The woman 100-yard freestyle set to take place. 100 yards, not as emphatic as the 50 yards, but still very much exciting, you'd have to say. Some say the most exciting event, with the extended run given, a couple more lead changes potentially possible. There was, it looks to be an adjustment in terms of the competition, with no one as of right now occupying lane number 2 for this event that belongs to Boston's swimmer, that's Summer Brainerd. She will not compete, but lane 1, then lanes 3 through 8 feature Ashley Piacentino of Bucknell, and also for Bucknell, Riley Giles. Then 4 through 8, Stella Langenbach, Virginia Hastings, Sasha Ramey, Jennifer Bolden, and John Vi Chowder. This event now underway for the 100-yard freestyle. Virginia Hastings expected to be a real competitor. She excels most, you'd have to say, in the 200-yard freestyle, but proves to be a different kettle of fish in the 100 as well. Stella Langenbach, certainly one to remember for Boston as well, did take the 200-yard freestyle victory against Holy Cross, trying to do so here in the 100-yard freestyle event. As of now, though, it's Giles with a 25.67 ahead now at the halfway mark. She is in lane number 3. Riley Giles, the senior for Bucknell, who had a 100 freestyle win versus Holy Cross last season, trying to get a 100-yard win as well. But to her right, in Boston colors, is Stella Langenbach. It's those two that are going to be competitive all the way to the line, but it's Giles who holds on by looks to be a 100th of a second to take first place against Stella Langenbach. That was about as close of an event as you could read it. But it is Riley Giles there in first, and in the top 3, rounding it out, the aforementioned Virginia Hastings. But Giles with an event win, the closest that Boston has come to winning an event for the women, but it's Giles denying Langenbach by a 100th of a second. 53.06 versus 53.07. Just incredible. Just a 10th and a half away in third is Virginia Hastings, who placed third. Now on to event number 18, and event number 16 of 28 in the lanes. The men's 100-yard freestyle, all 8 lanes, featuring a swimmer here. From lanes 1 through 8, William Harpster, Evan Liu, Chris Kopak, Charlie Nenchev, Justin DeSanto, Derek Cheng, Nick Champis, and Pierre Bresson. A lot of upperclassmen in the pool, 4 total seniors, including 3 for Bucknell. As they come now to the halfway mark, it's been an excellent start in lane number 3 for Chris Kopak, and it looks as though from the naked eye he's in first, and he is in fact in first, with Chang in lane number 6 all the way up in second. But so far just starting to separate himself a bit is Kopak. It's all going to depend on this last push off the wall, and it looked to have been a slightly better push for Boston. That was Charlie Nenchev. It looks like it's Nenchev and Kopak, but it's Kopak starting to separate himself again. They come again to the line, and it's Kopak to take first, and it's DeSanto for Bucknell in second. Kopak and DeSanto featuring a Bucknell 1-2. That's now back-to-back men's event victories for the Bison, with separating in a sandwich Charlie Nenchev, who takes third. Kopak was always in the driver's seat, didn't have what looked to have been the best push-off with Nenchev closing in, but Kopak in the middle of the pool was able to separate himself and take the victory. So a Kopak DeSanto 1-2 for the Bison, with Nenchev in third. As they go to one of the more longer specialty events, the 200-yard backstroke 19 of 32, including the 4 diving events that are also taking place on the opposite side. The 3-meter event looked to have concluded. They are currently in the 1-meter event on that far side. The swimming pool here, though, it's the 200-yard backstroke for the women. All 8 lanes, featuring a swimmer again from lanes 1 through 8, Sophia Burns, Alex Pastashan, Talia Bugel, Cambria Jewett, Kyla Kelly, Abby Hahn, Kendall Luke, and Ava Key. The participants for this competition. You can see all 4 different classes as well in the swimming pool, and a stellar start in lane number 4 from Cambria Jewett, the freshman from Hollis, New Hampshire, who's in front by about half a body's length. That's a massive advantage for this type of swimming event, as they're 50 yards gone already, and emphatically in front is Jewett. The women for Boston have not won a competition yet today, but they are more than threatening to do so here. You would have to say the women team for Boston had to feel hard done in the 100-yard freestyle. They lost by 1/100 of a second. But Cambria Jewett trying to provide a short memory for the Terriers past the halfway mark, a 31:57 on that lap, a 1:78 to be in first place. Kyla Kelly in lane 5 in second, but behind by over a second. This has been a stellar event from Cambria Jewett. If she takes victory and maintains her spot in first, it would be her first event win of her collegiate career, but just doing enough to hang around. And lane number 5 is Kyla Kelly. She remains within a body's length in second place, with third place belonging to Talia Bugel. Still the fastest lap, though, on that previous occasion, belonging to Jewett, as they come now to the final 50 yards of this 200-yard backstroke event. Cambria Jewett, who had led from the first 25 yards of this competition. It's a late push coming from Kyla Kelly, putting herself to within a body's length, but it will not be enough to stop Cambria Jewett as she touches the line. A 2:04.97, good enough for first by a very wide margin. Kyla Kelly in second and Talia Bugel in third. The first women's event win for Boston in this competition, and it took the freshman Cambria Jewett to do so. Jewett, Kelly, and Bugel, 1, 2, and 3 for the women's 200-yard backstroke. There will now be 2 heats for the men's 200-yard backstroke that is set to begin. This is going to be one of 4 more multi-heat events that are going to be taking place here at the Kinney Auditorium. There's the men's 200-yard backstroke that's about to take place currently. Then the men's 500-yard freestyle will also have 2 heats. There will also be 2 heats in the women's 200-yard individual medley. That is event number 29, and the men's 200-yard individual medley as well. It's underway here now for the men's 200-yard backstroke in heat 1 of 2, all 8 lanes occupied. From lane 1 to 8, Avery Kuhn, Min Lee, Caleb Hagedorn, Tony Panamarev, Andy Dorsell, Johnny Farber, Caleb Kubiak, and Keegan Duffy. Heat number 2, we will see Brad Waters of Boston versus Chase Ferguson of Bucknell. As of now, Boston, who has really dominated in a lot of these specialty events so far this afternoon, currently in a 1-2. Min Lee, the freshman for Boston, in lane 2, and Johnny Farber in lane 6. They occupy the first 2 positions as they approach now the half-run mark in this 200-yard backstroke competition. at the halfway mark now, the sophomore Johnny Farber, able to inch his way and edge his way into first place. Farber, who placed in first in the 100-yard backstroke against Holy Cross, up by a pretty wide margin. And as of now, another Boston swimmer is now in third position. That's Tony Ponomarev in lane number 4. We're set now for a Boston 1, 2, and 3. And is that what is necessary? As we don't have any scores yet for the men's side of things, is that what's necessary for Boston to really maintain their spot in first place in the dual meet for the men's? It is an emphatic 1, 2, 3 for Boston. And in front by a very large margin as well is Johnny Farber all the way out in lane number 6. He's almost 2 body lengths in front, a quarter of the swimming pool in front of any competition, including his teammates. This is a stellar run by the sophomore Johnny Farber. Farber will get his second backstroke competition win of the season. It was a stellar 1:51.06 to take first. Ponomarev in second, Lee in third. A Boston 1, 2, 3 Kubiak up in lane 7. The first for Bucknell. He takes fourth. That is the current standings with a 1:54.55, good enough for the second place spot, but a 1:52 time for Johnny Farber as they go now into heat 2 of 2 for the men 200-yard backstroke. It is going to be what could be a pretty interesting competition. You've got one swimmer for Bucknell and you've got one swimmer for Boston. As the light goes out, and we're back underway. This is heat 2 of 2 with Brad Waters, the freshman for Boston, in lane number 4. Chase Ferguson, the junior for Bucknell, he will be in lane number 5. It was a better push-off from Chase Ferguson in lane 5, but meeting it back out in the middle of the swimming pool was Brad Waters. And although that in terms of the times tables, these swimmers, not sure if they're going to find the top 3, but when you've got one Bucknell swimmer and one Boston swimmer in the swimming pool, there's always going to be that extra sense where you want to take at least the heat. As the women now occupy the jump boards, the breaststroke, 200-yard breaststroke, will take place following the conclusion of this second heat. What is the beginning of a very busy day in terms of Bucknell athletics. It is, of course, homecoming day with Bucknell football also taking place at the same time as this event now, as Bucknell takes on Cornell, Battle of the Nels for that competition. That's taking place roughly 2 blocks away from Christy Mathewson Memorial Stadium, but still a great crowd on hand here for this one. Of course, in the process of this competition, a couple former excellent teams also being run on to the pool and honored for their stellar efforts. More on them later as we head to more of the endurance competitions with, of course, some time to fill as well, as we're rounding out this second heat with a good run from Chase Ferguson in lane number 5. He was able to extend his lead to about a body's length from Brad Waters. As they will touch the wall in heat number 2, Brad Waters, who's going to take victory in this competition. So Waters touching the wall, the freshman, or rather Ferguson, pardon me, it was Chase Ferguson, the junior for Bucknell, touching the wall first. Brad Waters behind him, about a length behind, who will take second position in the second heat. So now we go into event number 21. We can't confirm, by the way, with that second heat concluded, that Johnny Farber is in first position after that one. And now into event number 21, the women's 200-yard breaststroke to take place. All 8 lanes currently fielding a swimmer here for this 200-yard breaststroke competition. Lanes 1 through 8, Ava Stallmeyer, Julia Owerko, Kelly Byron, Via McCarty, Sydney G, Isabella Ramos, Hannah Bingley, and Anna Winter. Isabella, by the way, nicknamed Izzy in the Boston roster sheet. She is named Izzy, but Isabella on the time cards here. the first 50 yards, of 200, and it looks as though Bucknell has found themselves with a quite decisive advantage. The women have so far dominated in the swim pool in this competition, and they've got themselves a 1-2-3 at the moment, or rather, it's a 2-3-4. A great late push by Fia McCarty in lane 4. That is the Boston swimmer to watch to take first, but on that next 25 yards, it looks as though Bucknell have now separated themselves from McCarty. A better push off from the Bison swimmers, and they find themselves now with a 1-2. It's Sydney G in lane number 5 for the Bison, the freshman swimmer, looking for her first event win coming into this afternoon. She has featured in a couple of these specialty events, and she finds herself with quite a formidable advantage. A 1:08.98 through the first 100 yards of this competition, besting everyone else in the swimming pool. She will touch the wall here. First is Sydney G, the freshman swimmer, 150 yards in lane number 5. That has a stellar time, a 1:45.66. She is 3 seconds ahead of the swimmer in second place. That is Hannah Bingley up in lane 7. But getting a better push off down in lane number 3 was Kelly Byron, also of Bucknell, who looks to be just slightly in second place against her teammate Hannah Bingley, who is all the way up in lane number 7. The two swimmers, they certainly can't see each other from that far away in the swimming pool, but they are very tight-knit as they come now once again to the finishing wall. But there will be no competition to stop the Bucknell swimmer in the middle of the pool. The freshman phenom, Sydney G, will touch the wall first, a 2:23.22. An excellent time from her. Second place will belong to Byron, with Bingley rounding out a Bucknell 1-2-3. We have said that now a couple of times in this competition, as Sydney G rounds it out in first position with Byron and Bingley 2 and 3. Ramos closest for Boston. She will take 4th. So as of now, with still competitions left to go, the women's team for Bucknell thoroughly dominating Boston at the moment. Not just taking first place in a lot of these competitions, but a lot of the second and third positions as well. A lot of 1-2s and a lot of 1-2-3s so far in this competition. As we come now to the next event, it'll be event number 22 of 32, the men's 200-yard breaststroke. And following this one, we have our last endurance competition to speak of. Now in the swimming pool here, it's the men's 200-yard breaststroke, which is underway. All 8 lanes being filled from lane 1 on the near side of your screens to lane 8, Dante Buenadonna. Lane 1 for Bucknell. They go back and forth between Boston and the Bison, with Shinsuke Moridaira in second lane, Matt Raudabog in lane 3, and it's Justin Lau, Will Hedges, Ethan Hune, James Lombardi, and Jackson Hope rounding out the 8 swimmers in this competition. Boston looking to be narrowly ahead through the first 50 yards. That is Justin Lau in first place, and he's got 2 Bucknell swimmers within a body's length of him in the right and left respectfully. That is Will Hedges and Matt Raudabog. That's not the first time that these 3 swimmers have been able to really separate themselves from the pack, but trying to make a name for himself up in lane 7 is James Lombardi. It was actually Lombardi who was able to take 3rd place as they touch the wall. Very close competition this could turn out to be, but maintaining his spot in first is the senior swimmer Justin Lau, who had 2 event wins, both in the breaststroke against Holy Cross. His 200-yard breaststroke time was a 2:08.39. As he hits the 150-yard marker, he now finds himself thoroughly ahead, a 1:34.05 with 1 lap to go here in this event. But it was a great push-off up in lane 5 to keep himself in it. That is Will Hedges, the senior for Bucknell, who is still less than a body's length away. Hedges is going to need to really get busy in that top lane. It's going to need to be a really good push-off to compete against Justin Lau in lane number 4. He got another good push-off there, but trying to separate himself is the swimmer in lane 4, that's Lau. It's Lau against Hedges. Hedges against Lau. They will go all the way to the wall, and it will be from start to finish Justin Lau taking the victory. But it's going to be a 2, 3, 4, and 5 finish for Bucknell in that competition with Hedges, Lombardi, Raudabaugh, and Buonadonna, all the remaining finishers in Bucknell colors. And it is the Boston Red in first with Justin Lau getting the most points, the senior swimmer. As we come now to the final endurance event of this competition, the 500-yard freestyle event will take place. We'll start with the women. They'll run just one heat. The men, they will run 2 heats in this competition as scheduled. We'll start with the women here for event number 23 of 32, the women's 500-yard freestyle set to take place. A highly coveted event as shown by the amount of competitors for this event. Lanes 1 through 7 to take place here in this. Should be noted, the largest event that will be fielded today is the 1,000-yard freestyle, which has already taken place. There will be no mile-long event here this afternoon. As the horn goes and we're underway for the women's 500-yard freestyle, lane 8 will be unoccupied. The rest are lanes 1 through 7. It is the freshman for Bucknell, Brookworth, in lane number 1. In lane number 2, that features Haley Newman, a Boston junior. Back to the Bison is the senior Riley Giles, who's expected to be a competitor in this one. 3, 4, and 5 will look to be the most competitive. In lane number 4 is a freshman for Boston, highly touted Katie Pestricelli, who also swam in the 1,000-yard freestyle and placed 3rd in the 1,000-yard freestyle event. In lane number 4, that was Pestricelli. And now in lane 5 is Clara Renner, who subsequently took 1st place in that event. The freshman for Bucknell trying to do so again here. She currently is in 1st position in the swimming pool. In lane 6 for Boston, the freshman Eliza Monaldo. And in lane 7 to round it out, a sophomore for Bucknell, that is Sydney Denton. As they look now to top the wall for the 5th time of 20 for this 500-yard freestyle event, and there is really no nonsense made in terms of who is in 1st position. You don't want to run out of gas too early. Of course, it's that second wave that's the most important, but she did something very similar in the 1,000-yard freestyle. That's Clara Renner, who is in lane 5, who took that event in the 1,000-yard freestyle. Renner, the freshman, took 1st place, with Kelly Byrne taking 2nd place. It is Katie Pestricelli taking 3rd for the 1,000-yard freestyle, and Eliza Monaldo rounding it out in 4th. Those are the 4 competitors for the women 1,000-yard freestyle. Now in the 500-yard freestyle, all those familiar names are back competing in this competition. And so far, it has been an emphatic start for Clara Renner. Renner, the only competitor really in that 1,000-yard freestyle for her was actually her teammate in that competition. That was Kelly Byrne. Should be noted, Byrne not competing in this 500-yard freestyle event, but both Boston swimmers who competed in the 1,000-yarder, and of course the reigning champion of the 1,000-yard freestyle, Clara Renner. She was competing here, and she now finds herself with about a 2 bodies length advantage against Katie Pestricelli. Those two were neck and neck for a while in that 1,000-yard freestyle, but around the halfway mark, Giles, or rather Clara Renner, Renner was able to turn it into that extra gear and turn it into a very competitive victory. As meanwhile, on the other side of the pool, in the diving competition for 1 meter, it looks as though, based on the body language, that event has concluded. So the rest of the events will now be taking place from the swimming pool from here on out. There is the women's 500-yard freestyle, which is currently taking place. And the men's 500-yard freestyle will be following suit. We'll have more on what's taking place coming up soon. We also have another break, it should be noted, in the action, a 15-minute intermission. As of now, the action still taking place in the pool, and again, it's Clara Renner, the Bucknell freshman, who continues to flex her muscles and finds herself in front. The Leslie, Massachusetts native, the freshman, got her first event win of her collegiate career previously in the 1,000-yard freestyle for the women's competition, and she is set to double that mark here so far. I'll tell you what, Bucknell, if you want to talk about making a statement, the women certainly have. They have been so terrific in a lot of these events, both individually and as a team. They've lost just one event so far, the Bucknell women's team has, and they continue to dominate in this competition. However, trying to fight for second place is Katie Pestricelli of Boston, trying to limit the damage. The closest competitor to Pestricelli in second, that is up in lane 7. As you can see, that belongs to the sophomore for Bucknell in Sydney Detman. Detman, it should be noted, who is currently in third place against Petricelli. She took 7 individual event wins last season. That included 2 500-yard freestyle wins last campaign. She is a real versatile swimmer. Sydney Detman up in lane 7, and you would bet your bottom dollar she is going to make second place a real competition. As we head now to the bell lap of this 500-yard freestyle event with Clara Renner in first position. Second place narrowly is Katie Pestricelli, and in third place is Sydney Detman all the way up in lane number 7. Second place separated by less than a body's length, but there is nothing coming in between Clara Renner and first place in this competition. The freshman swimmer who dominated the 1,000-yard freestyle, she is about to dominate the 500-yard freestyle as well. A quarter lengths of the pool away. It's going to be another stellar victory for the freshman Clara Renner, who touches the line, a time of a 5:06.61 in first position. And taking second place by less than 2/10 of a second is Pestricelli for Boston. Detman in third, Giles in fourth, with Monaldo in fifth, lanes 1 and 2 finishing it off on the bottom. In lane 2, finishing in sixth, that is the freshman swimmer, or rather the junior swimmer, Haley Newman and Brooke Worth, to round out the competitors. So Clara Renner, the first place position for Bucknell, another women's event win for this Bucknell squadron against a very competitive Boston team that placed ahead of them in the Patriot Leagues last season, but 2024-25 a different season, and the Bison are showcasing that fact emphatically in this competition. Of course, this Patriot League competition, especially for the women, have been dominated by Army and Navy in recent years, but Bucknell showcasing that they just might be a formidable competitor here this campaign. This is a Bucknell women's team that struggled a lot in terms of the injuries last season, got the injury bug, the sick bug as well, but did still finish with a 5-4 dual record and won their last 2 dual meets of last season. They're currently thoroughly ahead for this opening dual meet of the season. As we're now into event number 24, it is the men's 500-yard freestyle competition. We passed an hour and a half of meet time here from the Kinnean Auditorium. Here are the competitors. They're already a lap and a half in this competition. For Bucknell in lane 1, the junior, is William Shoemaker. The freshman for Boston is in lane number 2, Graham Evans. Alex Crossing, a Bucknell junior, is in lane 3. They go back to Boston for the freshman Giovanni Solo, who took the 1,000-yard competition prior to this event about an hour, you would say, ago. Was when Solo was able to take it. He is in lane 4. He is certainly set to be a competitor. Next to him is Chris Kopak, the senior for Bucknell. He is in lane 5. Dolan Grisbaum, the senior for Boston, is in lane 6. Riley Twist, a Bucknell sophomore, is in lane 7. And for Boston, the freshman Andrew Ignatescu, he is in lane number 8. Should be noted, on paper, this is expected to be a 2-heat contest, with Finn Franks, a freshman for Bucknell, still set to compete. However, we have seen prior to this occasion earlier where the second heat just didn't take place. We will see if this one does take place. This is once again event number 24. We do have no scoreline between Bucknell and Boston in the men's competition. We can confirm that the women, Bucknell emphatically ahead of the Terriers. Look now in the swimming pool as they come close. After the conclusion of this lap, they will be at the halfway mark. On the near side in lane number 3, that is first place, that is Alex Crossing, with Giovanni Solo in lane number 4 in second place. Rounding out the top 3, about a body's length and a half behind. In third place in lane number 5 for the Bison, that is Chris Kopak. A good competition, rather, in fact, being overtaken is Kopak. In lane number 1, that's William Shoemaker, who will in fact be in that 3rd position. We're now past the halfway mark in this 500-yard freestyle event. It's been a very close competition between Bucknell and Boston on the men's side of things. The Bison currently down by our estimates, looking for an event win here. As the junior Alex Crossing touches the line, and he is separated by half a body's length from Giovanni Sullo. In the 1,000-yard men's freestyle, it was Sullo taking first with Crossing and Shoemaker for Bucknell in 2nd and 3rd. Crossing not trying to get another 2nd place finish. He is now neck and neck